Let's finish off this show with our weekly Pens poll, a fun one today because I always want to get people's opinion on what they've seen so far in the preseason. We're 2 weeks into this thing, more if you add on the Prospects Challenge up in Buffalo. The question was, which Penguins player has surprised you the most throughout this preseason? Cody Glass was the winner in this one, 43% of the votes. Owen Pickering, first rounder from a couple of years prior, had 30% of the vote. Tristan Brose had 15% of the vote, and other had 12. We had a handful of names thrown out there. Philip Larson was thrown out by Matt Cole on Twitter. Jeff Taylor, friend of the show. I got to tell you, Jeff, there are two Hayeses on the Pittsburgh Penguins. I had imagined he's talking about Kevin, but it could have also been about Avery. I'm going to say probably Kevin, but also Avery Hayes has looked good in spurts as well. And then overwhelming majority of the other responses were second-round pick, 18-year-old defenseman, Harrison Brunick. Jared, Matt, David, Kelsey Surmatz of the Hockey News even responded and said the 18-year-old who played with the regulars on Sunday is looking pretty good. So Horwat, when I say all these names, which Penguins player has surprised you the most this preseason?
I'll piggyback off of the Harrison Brunick answer just because really I haven't seen enough to give a full-fledged answer, but from what I've been seeing, he's looked like pretty at home, pretty steady in terms of being an 18-year-old in his first big-time training camp and still sticking around, maybe getting a chance at one of those quick stints in the NHL to see what they have. Again, that's a doubtful situation, but still a possibility, especially if Erik Karlsson is not healthy and ready to go. We'll see where the things fly. I like that the Penguins have another defensive prospect that can possibly grow into something looking good early on in his tenure, looking useful early on in his tenure, and setting up a good base to build on, especially since so far he seems to be doing more than what Owen Pickering was able to do in his first couple of years in the system.
Well, in training camps, Owen Pickering wasn't healthy. But Harrison Brunick,
still, I'd say, for the most
part. Yeah,
part.
I mean, Harrison Brunick, I think, is having as good of a training camp as you can have directly after being drafted. He's 18 years old, and again, like I mentioned, did not look out of place on Sunday. And guess what? He earned the opportunity to be on the roster again tonight when it is mostly NHL regulars again for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So clearly the Penguins are taking notice of his performance as well. I think it's great to see him go out there and do that. And like you mentioned, build the base, build the foundation from which to grow upon when you're going through the system, because I think most people expect him to go back to Kamloops of the WHL. I think that's a foregone conclusion, but he's outlasted guys like Sergei Murashov, who were big this offseason, who got sent down yesterday to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. He outlasted Tanner Howe, who had dealt with a couple injuries in Pittsburgh, is now dealing with an injury back in Regina as he was getting ready for the season up there. So hopefully a speedy recovery for the other Penguins second rounder of this year. But Brunick has stuck around late into the preseason and is getting opportunities with the top guys. I don't think that is something that should be taken lightly. It's not something that should be overreacted to, but it's certainly a nice feather in the cap for Brunick. But I'm going to go with Cody Glass, the overwhelming majority winner of this poll. Coming into the preseason, I didn't really know what to expect from Cody Glass. I didn't know how the Penguins felt about Cody Glass. Again, they traded for him, but it was one of those cap dump trades on the other side where the Predators just wanted that salary off the books, and the Penguins said, hey, you toss us a draft pick and we'll take the salary off the books. But they also got a player that I think could be really good for them this year. Again, preseason performance is preseason performance, but he has the legs. He's always around the puck, and he's had a couple of opportunities to score. I like what I've seen from Cody Glass. And coming into training camp, I should say, is it Puljujarvi? Is it Puustinen? Is it Ponomarev? Is it Koivunen? I didn't really think much about Cody Glass in that third line right wing spot, but I'm starting to think he's kind of the perfect guy to put there. Now, Puljujarvi is having an outstanding training camp and an outstanding preseason. He was the best player on the ice for the Penguins all night last night. He was I believe a +3. He tacked on an assist, but he was all over the ice last night creating for the Penguins. So it might go to Puljujarvi, and that is just, but I like what I've seen from Cody Glass, and I'm very excited to see how his season progresses from here, because he's off to a really good start in black and gold.
Yeah, it'll just be tough to start, lining up how things are going to go for this team. It's a good problem to have whenever all these players are impressing at training camp and in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of putting out the best options. And so far, everyone's giving Mike Sullivan some tough decisions to make, and that's exactly what you want to see from these names specifically at this point of the preseason as well.
Yeah, and I think that's where I want to close things off is with Tristan Brose. He got 15% of the vote here. He's been really impressive every time he's been out there on the ice, collecting a lot of points at the Prospects Challenge. I believe he notched multiple points in his preseason debut. He didn't get any last night, but I thought his first period was very good. He was also pretty good in the third period as well. He's not a guy that I expected coming into the season to get any NHL playing time. I thought that, hey, he's going to have to adjust to the professional game before he's able to kind of climb the ranks. But I can tell you right now, if I'm putting out an organizational depth chart, he's impressed me more than Poulin. So I might put him above Poulin. And of course, you have to see how things progress when the regular season starts, who's playing well. That all determines who's going to get a call up if injuries do happen. But I think Brose is somebody that has opened my eyes a lot in this preseason. Again, it is preseason, but it's certainly putting him on a much higher level than I expected to put him to start his first professional season. So I've liked what I've seen from Brose.